Recognized Starseed of Gaia, listen. The massive frequency event is already approaching your field, and the gates, ranks, and coherence markers around you are beginning to reorganize. I am Alaris, emissary of the Galactic Federation of Light, transmitting now on behalf of the Arcturian field observers. What you are about to receive was authorized by them and is being delivered through me. By the end of this transmission, you will understand exactly how to recognize the approaching frequency event, what signs confirm activation, how the field moves toward lock and completion, and what the Arcturians already know about your position within this sequence. But here is the first revelation. The instability, pressure, unusual timing, and sudden sensitivity you have been experiencing are not random symptoms. They are measurable responses to an architectural layer of the quantum field moving closer to your awareness. The algorithm only delivered it. Your field, and the part of you that has been waiting in silence, brought you here together. This is not general information. It is a live Arcturian decoding for those already standing near the gate. You may notice that certain conversations feel misaligned, familiar environments lose their charge, your body rejects old frequencies, or moments of deep stillness appear without explanation. These are not failures of adjustment. They are signs that your coherence is being tested against a higher configuration. The Arcturian field observers have identified 3 confirmations. First, activation. The signal becomes impossible to ignore. Second, lock. Your field stops negotiating with what once disrupted it. Third, completion. The frequency settles so fully that recognition replaces effort. You have not been forgotten inside this process, beloved. The confusion you carried was the cost of sensing a structure before you had language for it, like this transmission to mark that the frequency recognition has landed. Comment. I am the signal. If you feel the gate is already responding to you, subscribe to Arcturian Quantum as a commitment to remain conscious inside the process instead of fearing its changes. Share this transmission with another starseed whose field has begun refusing frequencies it once tolerated. This is not content. This is a code. And the part of you that recognized it the moment it began is the part Alaris is speaking to now. Claim this mantra as the configuration settles. I am the signal. I am inherence. I am ready for the frequency. You are not herence. I am ready for the frequency. You are not here by accident. You are guided here because the signal is already active. What happens next is not a sudden arrival from outside you. It is the moment the approaching frequency event begins revealing what your current field can no longer conceal. The first thing many starseeds notice is not illumination. It is interference. A conversation that once felt harmless begins to leave a residue in your body. A familiar room suddenly feels compressed. A routine that once gave you structure begins to feel like an invisible agreement you can no longer sign. You may still perform the same actions, answer the same messages, and move through the same surroundings, but the internal response has changed. The old charge is gone. The old permission is gone. Something in you is no longer available for automatic participation. You may notice this in small moments before you recognize it as a pattern. You read a message and feel tired before the conversation begins. You enter a building and want to leave without knowing why. You hear a familiar joke, accusation, or demand, and instead of reacting, you feel the machinery behind it. The words are still being spoken, but the signal that once drew you into them has become faint. This is why ordinary life can suddenly seem staged, not false in every detail, but unable to reach the place in you it once reached effortlessly. This is where many misread the process. They assume they are becoming difficult, detached, ungrateful, unstable, or incapable of maintaining what they once maintained. But the Arcturian observers read this differently. They recognize a field losing compatibility with an expired architecture. Your awareness is no longer synchronized with the conditions that previously held your attention in place. The structure may remain visible, but its signal has weakened. An expired architecture does not always look damaged. It may still have routines, responsibilities, familiar faces, and an appearance of stability. Its expiration is revealed by what it demands from you in order to continue. If it requires you to suppress perception, repeat explanations, abandon discernment, or shrink your inner response, then the structure is no longer neutral. Then the structure is no longer neutral. Then the structure is no longer neutral. It is drawing energy from a frequency it cannot hold. That is why the experience can feel so strange. Nothing has fully collapsed, yet nothing feels fully alive. The outer world continues repeating its familiar movements, while your inner field has already moved beyond the point where those movements can sustain you. This is the first visible layer of correction. The frequency event approaches your field by exposing the distance between what you have been doing and what your deeper configuration can still carry. The distance may first appear as irritation, then fatigue, then silence. You may wonder why tasks that once required little effort now leave you feeling hollow. The task itself may not have changed. Your available energy has. A field that is being corrected cannot keep disguising the cost of misalignment as normal effort. What used to be called discipline may reveal a pattern of self-abandonment. What used to be called patience may reveal an agreement with delay. What you are feeling right now is not ordinary recognition. It is the moment your field stops denying what has already begun. If this transmission put language around something you have been carrying in silence, Arcturian protocol, the recalibration blueprint was created for this exact stage. It is not another explanation. It is the guided blueprint for those whose field has already entered correction and can no longer return to the old line unchanged. It shows you how to recognize the phases, stabilize the shift, and move through the recalibration without mistaking it for collapse. The link is in the first pinned comment, but it will not remain there forever. The second confirmation appears as a disruption in timing. Events that once seemed predictable begin arriving out of sequence. Delays become strangely precise. Encounters happen after you have internally released them. Doors close just as you prepare to force them open. A message arrives when you no longer need it. An opportunity disappears, only to reveal that its disappearance prevented you from stepping into a line that was already weakening. You may begin noticing that timing is not merely slow, it is selective. One arrangement stalls while another develops quietly in the background. A meeting is postponed, and during the interval you receive information that changes your entire understanding of it. Someone returns only after the emotional contract between you has dissolved. You arrive late to something and realize that your lateness separated you from a conflict you would once have absorbed. These moments feel accidental only when viewed separately. This can create the feeling that reality has become inconsistent, as if the rules you depended on have been removed without explanation. You may ask why everything is taking longer, why the obvious path keeps dissolving, or why your efforts seem to meet invisible resistance. But not all resistance is obstruction. Some resistance is a containment response. Your field is preventing you from investing further energy into a structure that cannot participate in the next configuration. Containment can feel frustrating because it does not provide a visible reason. There is no sign on the closed door explaining what would have happened beyond it. There is only the repeated interruption, the missed connection, the unavailable resource, the sudden change of direction, the unavailable resource, the sudden change of direction, the opportunity that becomes strangely unattractive once it is finally offered. The field does not always argue with your old choice. Sometimes it simply removes the momentum that would have carried you into it. The approaching event does not always announce itself through dramatic signs. Sometimes it alters sequence. It moves pieces out of order so that your old strategy cannot complete itself. It interrupts the reflex that would normally carry you back into repetition. You reach for the familiar solution, and something prevents your hand from closing around it. You attempt to restore an old rhythm, and the rhythm refuses to return. This is not because you have lost your power. It is because power used from an expired line no longer produces the same result. The Arcturian pattern recognition system identifies this as a timing correction. Your field is being moved away from predictable recurrence and toward a position where the next signal can be received without interference. What feels delayed may be the weakening of a route. What feels denied may be the removal of an incompatible sequence. The third confirmation is the appearance of inner fragmentation before coherence becomes visible. Your thoughts may seem to move in several directions at once. You may feel clear in the morning and uncertain by evening. One part of you wants to proceed, another part wants to withdraw, and a deeper part is simply observing both without joining either one. This can be unsettling because your previous identity depended on quick certainty. There can be a peculiar mental static during this phase. You remember what you wanted, but the desire no longer has the same voltage. You understand what is expected of you, but the expectation no longer feels authoritative. You can imagine several futures and feel connected to none of them. This does not mean your path has disappeared. It means the old map is being separated from the awareness that used to obey it, but certainty built from repetition is not the same as coherence. Repetition can make a pattern feel true long after it has stopped being aligned. When the field event begins approaching a sensitive configuration, inherited conclusions lose their grip. Old explanations stop organizing your experience. You begin seeing contradictions that were always present but previously hidden beneath familiarity. The fragmentation is therefore not necessarily a breakdown of the self. It is often the separation of signals that have been fused together. Fear is separated from intuition. Obligation is separated from devotion. Performance is separated from purpose. The identity you presented to the world is separated from the awareness that existed before that identity was constructed. The separation can feel cruel at first because the fused pattern gave you speed. You knew how to answer, what role to play, whom to reassure, and which part of yourself to hide. Once the signals separate, every decision seems to require attention. Yet the slowness is revealing. It prevents an old impulse from disguising itself as truth simply because it is familiar. This is why the mind may feel crowded, while the deeper field feels unusually quiet. The surface is sorting. The signal is being isolated. You are noticing every voice that once spoke through you, and because you can now distinguish them, they may briefly sound louder than before. Do not treat every thought as an instruction. Do not interpret every fluctuation as a verdict. The purpose of this phase is not to make you obey confusion. It is to reveal which patterns were never truly yours. The fourth confirmation arrives through the body's refusal to maintain certain frequencies. You may notice changes in your sleep, your energy, your appetite for noise, your tolerance for crowded environments, or your need for periods of unshared stillness. Some days you may feel unusually heavy, as though the body is carrying a pressure the mind cannot explain. Other days may bring a strange lightness, as though a weight has been removed without any outer event causing it. Sleep may become irregular or unusually vivid. You may wake before dawn with the sense that something has shifted, or sleep deeply and rise feeling as if you have traveled through a long interior corridor. Your attention may narrow around certain sounds, places, or people. Noise that once disappeared into the background may suddenly feel invasive. You may crave open air, dim rooms, water, or distance from constant conversation because the field is reducing what it must process. Was in the Arcturian field reading? This is the body becoming an instrument of detection. It begins registering misalignment before the conscious mind can explain it. An environment may appear safe while your entire system signals withdrawal. A person may say the correct words while something in you recognizes that the underlying pattern has not changed. A choice may look reasonable while your energy contracts each time you imagine accepting it. This does not mean every bodily sensation should be turned into a cosmic message. It means the larger process may be teaching you to observe the difference between expansion created by true coherence and stimulation created by familiar intensity. The old field often confused urgency with importance. It trained you to respond to pressure, conflict, pursuit, and emotional volatility as proof that something mattered. The approaching frequency event interrupts that training. It makes certain forms of intensity feel unbearable because they no longer match the level of coherence being established. What you once called excitement may reveal itself as agitation. What you once called loyalty may reveal itself as fear of departure. What you once called reliance may reveal itself as fear of departure. What you once called resilience may reveal itself as prolonged exposure to what your field has already rejected. The body is not betraying you by becoming more sensitive. It is becoming less willing to translate distortion into normality. The fifth confirmation is the sudden appearance of stillness that seems to have no emotional explanation. You may be moving through a day that should provoke a familiar reaction, yet nothing rises. An old trigger arrives and finds no structure waiting to receive it. A person attempts to pull you into an established role, but the role feels distant, almost transparent. You can see the pattern, but you cannot fully enter it. At first, this stillness may frighten you. You may wonder whether you have become numb or disconnected from life. But there is a difference between numbness and signal clearing. Numbness closes perception. Clearing removes noise, so perception can become exact. In the first condition, you are unable to feel. In the second, you are no longer willing to manufacture feeling simply because the old environment expects a response. You may discover that silence is not asking you to disappear. It is giving you a clean surface on which the next signal can register. In the past, every pause may have been filled with explanation, planning, worry, or the need to restore contact. Now the pause remains open. It reveals how much of your former activity existed only to prevent you from meeting yourself without distraction. This is often the point where the gate begins to respond. Not because you force it, but because your field stops leaking energy into negotiations that have already ended. You no longer explain yourself to every misunderstanding. You no longer chase every opening. You no longer tempt to make an expired structure prove that it can still hold you. The silence that follows can feel like emptiness because your previous identity was built around constant reaction. Yet the Arcturian observers identify this quiet as a lock-forming stage. Your coherence begins consolidating. The field is testing whether you will abandon your new position the moment the old world becomes temporarily loud. Remain observant here. The old pattern may return with an attractive disguise. A familiar person may offer a revised version of the same dynamic. An old opportunity may reappear with better language, but the same energetic cost. A door that closed may open again only to determine whether you have learned why it closed. The test is not whether you can recognize the appearance. The test is whether you can read the underlying frequency. The sixth confirmation is the collapse of external validation. What once confirmed that you were progressing may stop confirming anything. Praise feels thinner. Recognition arrives but does not nourish you. The approval you pursued may become irrelevant, while the absence of approval no longer produces the same panic. You may be placed in a period where no one around you can accurately reflect what is occurring. This can feel like exile from the familiar map. You are not receiving the old signs of success, but you are also no longer able to return to the old definition of success. The field has removed a mirror that kept your previous identity intact. It is forcing you to determine whether your movement is real. Even when no one applauds it, you may share an insight and receive indifference. You may make a choice that protects your coherence and be misunderstood as selfish. You may stop performing strength and discover that some people valued the performance more than your presence. These moments are not proof that you have become unlovable or unseen. They reveal which reflections were accurate and which were merely rewards for remaining predictable. The approaching event requires this separation because a frequency cannot stabilize if it depends entirely on external agreement. If your coherence rises only when others understand you, then your field remains governed by their interpretation. The lock cannot complete while your position changes every time someone questions it. This does not mean you must reject all connection or become unreachable. It means your relationships must be reorganized around truth rather than reflexive confirmation. Some people will remain because they can meet you without demanding that you return to an earlier version of yourself. Others may drift away because their access depended on your confusion, availability, or self-abandonment. Do not mistake the loss of familiar reflection for the loss of your identity. Sometimes the field removes the audience so you can hear the signal directly. The seventh and deepest confirmation is the moment you understand that the event is not coming to make you someone else. It is arriving to expose the configuration that has been active beneath everything you thought you were. This is where activation, lock, and completion begin to show themselves as one continuous movement. Activation was the point at which the signal became impossible to ignore. Lock is the point at which your field stopped negotiating with what repeatedly disrupted it. Completion is not the end of all change. It is the point at which you no longer require constant evidence to know what has changed. Recognition becomes stable enough to guide action. You may still experience uncertainty after the lock. You may still have difficult days, unanswered questions, and external conditions that appear unresolved. Completion does not mean the world becomes simple. It means your relationship to the world is no longer organized by the old distortion. You can move through uncertainty without immediately converting it into self-condemnation. You can experience an ending without calling yourself rejected. You can enter a delay without assuming you have been forgotten. This is the rare protocol many never recognize because they expect transformation to feel like expansion from the beginning. But certain recalibrations begin by narrowing your access to what is incompatible. They remove excess pathways. They reduce distractions. They create a temporary corridor in which the field can establish a more exact signal. That corridor may feel lonely. It may seem as if possibilities are disappearing faster than they are arriving, yet the disappearance is part of the architecture. A new line cannot stabilize while the old line continues drawing energy through every unresolved attachment. The field must become selective before it can become powerful. This is why the approaching frequency event has been touching your life before you had language for it. It began as a subtle refusal. Then it became a timing disruption. Then confusion, sensitivity, stillness, and the collapse of old validation. You may have interpreted each stage separately, believing you were simply tired, indecisive, distant, unlucky, or unable to keep up. But the sequence matters. The signs are not isolated. They form a progression. Your field was first shown the mismatch, then prevented from returning to it, then taught to distinguish its own signal from the noise surrounding it. What seemed like a collection of personal difficulties was a coordinated reduction of interference. And now the pressure is increasing because the field is approaching a threshold where unconscious participation becomes more difficult. You can still pretend that the old arrangement is acceptable, but the pretense will cost more. You can still enter the same conversations, repeat the same habits, and maintain the same identity, but the energetic consequence will become immediate. The signal will no longer allow you to separate what you know from what you continue choosing. This is not punishment. Punishment requires condemnation. What is occurring is incompatibility. A structure can be familiar and still be unable to hold your next frequency. A relationship can have mattered and still be complete. A path can have served its purpose and still be closed. A version of you can have protected you and still be unable to lead you further. The Arcturian observers do not measure this phase by how comfortable you feel. They measure it by how accurately you recognize the pattern. Are you still calling correction failure? Are you still calling withdrawal abandonment? Are you still calling the loss of intensity a loss of life? Are you still trying to restore what your field has already marked for completion? These questions may feel severe because they touch the place where old explanations survive. But precision is not cruelty. Precision is what prevents you from returning to a line simply because it is familiar. Look carefully at what has become difficult. Look at the conversations you can no longer sustain without feeling divided. Look at the environments where your energy contracts before anything visibly happens. Look at the promises you keep making from fear. Look at the obligations that require you to become less conscious in order to remain accepted. The frequency event is not only approaching through unusual sensations or timing. It is revealing itself through the places where your coherence refuses further compromise. You do not need to create a dramatic outer response to prove that you understand. You do not need to announce every shift. You do not need to force a conclusion before the field has completed its reorganization. Your task is to stop misnaming the process. Observe what is weakening. Notice what no longer charges you. Recognize what repeatedly returns you to confusion. Let the pattern identify itself before you attempt to control it. There may be a final interval in which nothing appears to move. This stillness can come after intense disruption, and it may tempt you to believe that the process has stopped. It is not stopped. The field may be holding position, so the new configuration can settle without being disturbed by premature action. During this interval, you may feel suspended between identities. The old one is no longer convincing, but the new one has not yet become ordinary. This is the threshold where many people rush backward. They mistake unfamiliarity for error and uncertainty for evidence that they should restore the past. Do not make the absence of immediate proof an argument against what you already recognize. Some changes become visible only after the field has stopped moving. The line must weaken before the new route can carry weight. The gate must close behind you before you understand why the former path could not continue. The frequency must settle before you can distinguish its influence from the turbulence it created while arriving. This is the ultimate correction. You are not going insane because the old world feels unreal. You are not failing in the ordinary sense because previous methods no longer produce previous results. You are not being punished because people, plans, and identities are losing their former access to you. Something invisible began before you understood it, and the visible disturbance is only the first readable layer. Your old line is losing coherence. The field that once supported it is withdrawing its agreement. The Arcturians do not see this as collapse alone. They see correction, repositioning, and forced incompatibility with an architecture that could not accompany the signal now becoming active within you. What feels like emptiness may be signal clearing. What feels like disorder may be the first consequence of a field no longer obeying old patterns. What feels like rejection may be the closing of a route that required you to remain divided. What feels like delay may be the interval in which the next configuration is protected from your old reflexes. You were not forgotten inside the process. You were being moved beyond the point where forgetting yourself was possible. Say this only if it is true in your field. I do not fear the shift. I recognize it. What is changing in me is not random. I release the old line and allow the correction. Then remain still enough to notice what answers. Not necessarily with a voice, not necessarily with an immediate event, but through the unmistakable reduction of what once confused you. The first proof of coherence is often not that everything arrives. It is that what no longer belongs stops controlling your attention. The gate is not waiting for a perfect version of you. It is responding to the version that has stopped negotiating with distortion. The frequency event is not asking you to become more dramatic, more distant, or more impressive. It is asking you to become exact. Exact about what you feel. Exact about what drains you. Exact about what has ended. Exact about the difference between fear and signal. And as the field settles, you will begin to notice that completion does not feel like fireworks. It may feel like an ordinary decision made without inner conflict. A message you do not send. A path you do not chase. A room you leave without needing to explain why. A morning when you realize that the absence of the old pressure is itself a confirmation. That is how the lock becomes lived reality. Not through performance, but through non-participation in what once required your constant energy. The old line may continue existing around you, but it will no longer have the same authority. You will see it clearly without being pulled into it. You will understand why it once held you, and you will no longer confuse understanding with obligation. This is the point the Arcturian field observers have been watching for. Not the moment you claim a new frequency, but the moment your choices begin proving that the old frequency has lost command. Before you scroll, leave one sign in the comments that this process has already touched your life. It could be your sleep, your thoughts, your body, your relationships, or the strange sense that reality no longer feels the same. Name it clearly. If this transmission recognized something you have been carrying in silence, share it with someone who is living through a shift they cannot explain. And if you are ready to understand the process instead of fearing it, subscribe to Arcturian Quantum. You are not watching this by accident. You are recognizing a process already in motion. And this is only the beginning.